Put yourself in position to win big on Kentucky Derby Day with the power of daily racing form. Visit shop.drf.com and get past performances, expert picks, betting strategies, clock reports, and more. Again, that's shop.drf.com. Dan Illman, Mike Beer with the race preceding the Kentucky Oaks at Churchill Downs on Friday. Race number 10's the Grade 2 Edgewood. 3-year-old fillies going 1 mile and a 16th on the turf. $500,000 is the purse. It's a good field. It's a good betting race with a full group. Before we get to the entry card, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Here's the field for the Grade 2 Edgewood. Some solid 3-year-old fillies in here, including the number 3 Cairo Consort, who's just been in very good form for Todd Pletcher, just missing in her last 2 races, and a graded stakes winner in her seasonal debut at Gulfstream. She might be the one to beat. I'm not sure she has such an edge on this field that you want to go any lower than 3-1.
Yeah, very point very well taken there, Dan. She's pretty good, and she tends to show up in her races. I don't have, some kind of huge argument with her being the morning line favorite, but I don't think this is necessarily the kind of race where you want to take a short price on anybody. I think a lot of different horses can win here. There's not only is there a lot of talent, there are a bunch of lightly raced horses who could easily improve. And Cairo Consort, as good as she is, she has no edge on this field.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector. The 3 Cairo Consort likes to come from near the back of the pack. Not so for the 10 Flashy Gem, a gate-to-wire winner in 2 of her last 3 races. And the race she didn't win was a race where they settled off of the pace. And guess what? She got wired. I think she's going this time under the aggressive Luis Saez, and I'm not sure Heavenly Sunday is going to want to keep up with her early.
Yeah, the pace is going to be very important in this race, Dan, because I do think trips are going to be really important in this race to see who comes out on top. Flashy Gem, to me, is pretty good. I like her getting back to the grass, and I really like her tactical speed. I think she can make the lead. Heavenly Sunday was pretty aggressive in her most recent start at Keeneland in the Appalachian off the layoff there, but I don't think they have to ride her that way.
The number 1 Girl Named Charlie is 2-4-2 going long on the turf. It must be noted that both of those races came with Lasix. Lasix will be off, of course, on the graded stakes at Churchill Downs on Friday. But she looked good winning a stake last time out, and now she's going to be stepping up in class.
Yeah, she's stepping up. She's not, in over her head here, though, Dan, and she's going to be a fair price in this race. I liked her win last time. I thought she did some good things in there to get the job done. I really liked her maiden win 2 starts back, though. I mean, she got a good trip in that race, but she was super impressive winning. I think she's mildly interesting at a price. I didn't pick her, but I could use her.
Chad Brown tests the number 2 Liguria in her first start off of a 5-month layoff. She won her maiden in her second lifetime start. Chad found a great spot. First time against winners. This is the Jimmy Durante Stakes at Del Mar going 1 mile. We see Liguria get to the outside. The early pace in this race was very hot, as you see, 22-2, and Liguria, who looks like a really strong-looking daughter of Warfront, rolls right by.
Yeah, she wins this race pretty impressively, actually. The pace was fast early, but it's not like Liguria was like super far back in the field there. She just sort of settled in about mid-pack on the outside. And I thought that was a really significant step forward for her, even though the buyer figures don't reflect that. Her first 2 starts were fine. I thought she was a lot better last time.
The third-place finisher from that last race did come back to run second in the Cal Cup Oaks on turf with a 72 buyer. Cairo Consort won the Sweetest Chant in her seasonal day in her second start as a 3-year-old. Her first start came in a win in the Ginger Brew. Remember, she was third in last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. She sold for over $600,000 in November, and she won that Sweetest Chant 3 starts back despite missing the break by 3-4 lengths. She was widest in the Here Comes the Bride, and she just missed by a head. And last time out in the Appalachian, she just missed once again. After 10 starts, I'm not sure how much upside is left, but she's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with all those things, Dan. I mean, there's nothing to really knock about her. She was good as a 2-year-old. She's just as good this year as a 3-year-old. Even though she didn't win her last 2 starts, she still ran well in both of those races. That last one, a little bit, sort of towards the inside behind her horse. So she had to split late, and then she just got out finished at the end, but she ran fine in there.
Sabalenka, the number 4, is going to be a big price in this race, but she has shown the ability to adapt to different pace scenarios. The pace was very slow 2 starts back. That was her final start as a 2-year-old, and she just went right to the front, dropped the anchor, and held him off late. She was in tough in the Appalachian, her first start off the layoff, and she was pretty far behind. I think they'll try to get her closer here.
Yeah, she got a little bit maybe too far away, but that pace was pretty solid in the Appalachian. So I don't think it was some kind of big excuse for her. It was her first start off the layoff. She was a huge price. She couldn't really make any kind of an impact. She's one of the horses in here who it feels like has, maybe more to prove than some of the others, Dad. She's got to work it out for her.
Chad's got Liguria in here, a prior graded stakes winner, but he also has preliminary. You might actually take a little bit more money based on this very impressive career debut at Gulfstream Park, going a mile. Now, the pace in this race, very solid, 22-2, 46 flat for the half, but preliminary swings to the outside, and she's loving life in the stretch.
Yeah, she came wide here and just takes over with no trouble at all. I like the way that she goes on with it too. Then she still looks a little bit green to me, but she is kicking on here with a horse trying to close her down. That was a good performance. I think it's also really worth pointing out. She had the outside post there. She actually had speed from the gate, and they were going forward. And Irad got caught a good 5 wide into the first turn. He had to take her back and give away tons of position. She still made that run.
And Timeform US notes that she's got a little bit of speed. They have her sitting 3rd after the opening half mile on their pace projector. Mission of Joy is a perfect 3 for 3 on turf, including this win in the Grade 3 Florida Oaks, a race in which one of the also-rans would come back to run 3rd in a stake at Gulfstream with an 83 buyer. She gets to the outside for Graham Motion in this race, and she's going to grind them down with a good, nice late run to win. Solid performance for Mission of Joy, and I still think there's some upside here. I liked when she was confronted by that horse to the inside. She found a little more.
I agree with that, Dan. They took her back a little bit further last time, but it really didn't matter. That horse too that she outfinished there too sort of came out underneath her at the top of the stretch and pushed her wide. But Mission of Joy just kept coming through the stretch. Really good there. Really good winning that allowance race 2 starts back. Really good winning her maiden prior to that. There's tons of upside here.
The number 7 is Comanche Country, really solid coming in from Southern California for trainer Phil D'Amato. She won her first 3 starts in North America, including the graded Surfer Girl. Didn't run up to par in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf, but I think she might be coming into this race a little bit dirtied up. Here's her most recent start, the China Doll. This is her first race of the year. There's no pace on. The winner of this race just took him gate to wire. She has to come widest from last in the stretch, and she's running on at the end to finish 2nd. The 4th place finisher came back to win a Grade 3 at Santa Anita with an 83 buyer. I think she builds off this race.
I agree, Dan. She's going to be a fair price in this race. Could easily be used in here at the right price. She was pretty good at 2. Her Breeders' Cup wasn't terrible. I mean, she never looked like she was going to win, but she was in a little bit of traffic through the stretch before she wound up 5th. And I agree with your take on her first start this year. Had absolutely no chance, ran fine to be 2nd.
Heavenly Sunday, the number 8, showed versatility in terms of running style in winning her first 2 starts for Brad Cox. She was a fine 3rd in the Swedish Chant, and as Mike mentioned, she was very aggressively ridden in the Appalachian last time out. She's going to be close to the pace under Florent Giroux. She has a lot of upside potential. It'll be interesting to see what price she takes. If Brad takes some money in here, 8-1 on the morning line seems fair considering this horse has ability and that upside.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. I don't know. I wouldn't certainly go short on her. I would need at least the 8-1 morning line, but I think there's something there for Brad Cox to work with. I liked her first 2 starts. Her Swedish Chant was okay. I didn't think she had a big excuse in that race, but she ran fine. And maybe that just wasn't the right trip last time, sort of getting aggressive on the early lead. I still think there's upside here.
Papilio is the number 9, and she beat 3 of these last time out in this race. This is the Appalachian, a race where she came from off of the pace. She's run well in both starts in North America for trainer Mark Cassie. You saw her angle sharply to the outside at the 3/16 for clearance, and once she gets into the clear, she's a little bit green, but she comes with a strong run to deny both Cairo Consort and Heavenly Sunday.
Yeah, she has this bad habit, Dan, of the stretch. She keeps doing this in all of her races where she wants to sort of lug in on horses and she sort of cocks her head as she's coming to the finish. It didn't really affect her in the Appalachian. That was a strong finish, but it certainly affected her 2 back. And then Here Comes the Bride when she was wide, and it was a race she could have won if she didn't cost herself the victory. Same thing. 4 starts back in August in Ireland last year, a race that she could have won, but she would not run straight through the stretch. I don't think she can get away with that against this field. But man, her talent is pretty obvious. If she ever figures this game out, she's going to be really tough.
The tennis Flashy Gem, who went gate to wire on turf in her second lifetime start. That was last summer at Ellis Park. She needed to go to the sidelines after that race. Brad found a really good spot for her, a first-level allowance on the all-weather at Turfway Park, and she wired that field as the favorite. Now, they tested her in the Bourbonnette Oaks on the synthetic last time out, and it was a race where she sort of conceded the lead. I think she could have got forward if they wanted it. Maybe they were a little bit concerned about the extra distance for the first time. She conceded, and the horse she conceded to, I guess, is pretty good, Botanical, who just set the pace and sprinted on home, and she's going to be tough in the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, that's her stablemate, Botanical, there. So they let that horse have the lead and tried to sit off her. All in all, I thought this horse ran really well in there, Dan, without a real chance to catch that horse. I really liked her turf, her maiden win on the grass last summer. Second start, she had a really soft trip in there, just easily made the lead, took no pressure. I thought she looked really, really good winning, though, and I really like her getting back to turf here.
Revalita completes the field in number 11, also trained by Chad Brown, and she looked good in the Here Comes the Bride last time out. She was beaten 3/4 of a length, and she finished behind a couple of these horses. But that was a race that just didn't have any pace. It was a 1-mile race on the turf. They went 50 and change, and Revalita, like many European horses, tried to come from far back. She was running on at the end. Now, she has a lousy post here, but I think this horse is okay.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you could go back and watch that Here Comes the Bride and say that she was really unlucky not to win, trying to come from last into no pace. And she made up a ton of late ground and then just galloped out right by everybody past the wire. Her 2 wins in France last year, they were both really good. This is a terrible post for her, but she's easily good enough to win this race.
Top pick time for the race preceding the Kentucky Oaks. It's the Edgewood. I think Flashy Gem can get to the front in here. I like the try she showed last time out, even though she didn't get to the lead. I think Botanical's a good horse. She showed no quit. I think if she gets to the lead and backs down the fractions just a little bit, she could be tough to catch. Preliminary, your top selection was a very impressive debut winner.
Yeah, I'm going to take her here again and just hope that maybe she gets overlooked a little bit in here because there are so many different ways to go. Well, so you don't usually get prices with Chad and Irad, but I'm going to hope maybe she doesn't get the credit she deserves. I really liked her debut. I almost put your horse on top, Flashy Gem. I'm very interested in her back on turf here, but I'm going to try the 5.
Mike's going 5, 10, 11, and 7. I'm going 10, 9, 11, and 8. Really don't want to fade the 9 Papilio or the 11 Revalita. Both horses have shown some promise. It's the Edgewood race number 10 at Churchill on Kentucky Oaks Friday. Good luck.